People, Deluded, I'm back again. I hope you're all doing well and safe this morning. International break, something of nothing, so I might as well just speak about what I've come across in regards to Arsenal, somewhat relevant news. I've spoken about this in another vid, but I believe Eddie and Nketiah scored once again for England's under-21s. Our under-16s are currently in a tournament, well it's finished now, but they were out in Croatia. They finished third. Saka allegedly is in talks to sign a new contract. So hopefully these things happen. And he's been name dropped by Southgate. So if he keeps developing, let's just focus on club first. But international recognition's got to happen. I don't understand why he's still in England's under-19s and not the 21s. In the same way, I don't understand how, again, as a football fan, I'm not seeing, since Amici's gone to Hamburg, he's not been involved in the youth level for England. So I can't understand that. But moving on. Apparently, Raul has apparently said in relation to Emery qualifying for the Champions League, he said, "We said to Unai that we just missed out on qualifying for the Champions League last year, but with this squad, with a stronger squad, we expect you to do that." So, I don't want to, do we read that as his Champions League or bust for Emery and that he might be getting the clip? There is a talk to say he might get the clip regardless, but yeah, it's Champions League or not, because on one hand, we got to the final of the Europa and we missed out by a point in his first season. That's a lot. That's very good. But if we look beneath the hood, the manner in how we played in the final, and obviously we dropped stupid points last season for various different reasons. But the last 8 or 9 games in total, the players crumbled. But I do think you can look at the managerial's tactics. So there are a lot of question marks. And this season, the Wolves are out. Like I've said in many vids, it is his squad now. Yes, there's a good few players in that side that weren't bought by him, just off the top of my head. Nelson made his debut and Willett made his debut before Emery, so I'll include them, even though they came through the academy. You obviously had the holding, Lal Mustafi. You got Xhaka. You've technically got Ozil. Who else? That's it, innit? Off the top of my head, Kolasinac. Bellerin, of course, and you get the point I'm making at this moment in time. But he's been allowed to bring his own players in. We've spent £72 million on the winger. Players have been brought in. While he's been allowed to move on players from the previous regime, whether they've been marginalised like Mustafi and Ozil and still at the club, farmed out on loan like Mkhitaryan and El Nene, or just sold completely, whether they were good enough or not. So it is his squad now. There is his squad of additions. It's his squad of players he's brought in. Also, we need to remember last season, Guendouzi, Leno, Torreira, none of them were previously at the club under Wenger. So he's their player, regardless of if Mislintat was involved or not. So he's got his squad. So there's no way around it. If he gets top 4, again, you have to ask question marks of the players and how they move, because they're the ones playing. But ultimately, the penny drops with the manager. If he doesn't get top 4, then I can't really see a leg to stand on for Emery to stay. Not because I don't like him. I think he's a good manager. But it's not a thing where there's a real core sort of active philosophy or playing style or some sort of project we can see happening to say, okay, let's persist with him sort of thing. If he doesn't get top 4, then he has to get the clip unless I see something. I don't want him to. I like him. I like what he brings. But at the end of the day, football's about results. And if you're not helping the club elevate to that level, then the penny's got to drop with you people. And I do think it's a risky game. Like, he's got to get it, people. He's got to get it. He's got to get it, or his job's gone. So hopefully Emery gets it. Not just for Emery, for the fans. I'm tired of playing in Europa League and 5:55 kickoffs and that. But moving on, Aubameyang was named Premier League Player of the Month. Obviously, he done his thing in September, scoring goals where he needed to do. The only time he never scored, he had 5 and 6 at a point in September. Forgive me if I'm wrong. The only time he didn't is when he vacated the penalty for Pepe to take against Villa. So he's been doing his thing. But in the same month, we've named Guendouzi as our Player of the Month. Now, for me, Aubameyang, Guendouzi is a toss-up between them. Obviously, Aubameyang's goals, we'd be 17th. Guendouzi's been playing well, so in true Arsenal fashion, we voted a different player, but I feel they both deserve to be praised. Obviously, Guendouzi with official Arsenal's Player of the Month, and Premier League Player of the Month falls to Aubameyang. Maybe a lot of people like myself voted for Aubameyang on top of the fact that he's carrying a lot of the FPL points. So they're both deserved, and I mean, for Aubameyang, it'll be a waste if we don't start challenging for trophies. It's a long time away from it, and I say that subjectively. And if we don't get top 4, because Aubameyang is 30, turning 31, he's getting on. But we've finally got a striker where rain, sunshine, snow, playing out wide, not giving him service, he's scoring 20 league goals. And I think you're missing a trick if you don't not necessarily build the side around him, but if you don't improve the midfield, get our wide players connecting and all these things properly, improving defensively, we're missing a trick because we're a long way away from challenging for a title or anything of significance. But I do think there's players there that we can build a decent squad. First 11, we've got good options off the bench. We've got good options, people. It's about allowing them to realise their potential and all of these sort of things. Mesut Ozil's been linked with Barcelona. I think that one's all nonsense. But so has Daniel Marlin, formerly of Arsenal. But moving on, and I think these have come out of the recent sort of fan meeting that Raul and them man there have done. He said, in relation to Ozil, Unai has had many good players in other teams also, and he has also followed the same policy, which is not to make any distractions. Play the ones who work hard in training and reward the effort with playing time, he said. There's nothing against Ozil. On the contrary, I hope we get to see him much more in the next games because his qualities are without question, but he needs to contribute 24/7, and that's what Emery expects of him. It's not that he's not working so well, but there are others who are more deserving of playing time. But Emery can't treat him more differently than any other player. You also heard Ozil's put his house up for sale. Now, what does that tell you, people? That also tells you what we know. There's question marks over Mesut Ozil's work ethic in general, but his quality isn't denied. Emery, again, I don't feel I'm right to comment because I'm a fan. I don't know, but from what us fans see with the media propaganda and what we're seeing with him not playing, Ozil and Emery haven't seen eye to eye. They're not on the same page. I did think they were getting on the same page in pre-season. It looked like they were getting along. Obviously, I really like the way Emery obviously nothing can do, but I like the way he answered questions and just responded when the whole Kolasinac and Ozil robbery thing was going down. I thought they were getting through it. He played against Watford. They have a love-hate relationship. Of course, we've heard sickness, illness. Ozil's obviously missed out because of just missing out in general, not being selected. Earlier in the season, obviously the robbery happened. So there's been a mixture of reasons. His quality is not in question. I do think it's a mixture of Emery just not liking creative midfielders. Because if you look at Ozil, Ramsey, Willock plays in there, and Ceballos, has he got any of them playing extremely well consistently? There's been moments from Ramsey, but consistently. Was he using any of them consistently? So he has an issue. But it's clearly the work ethic. Now, I do think Ozil's a hard deal. I think there's more to working hard than just blood and guts and flying around. Ozil does run around. You do want a bit more from him. So if he doesn't deem Ozil's giving it to him because of how Ozil is and the wages he's on, there's no point persisting if you don't see eye to eye and he's a bad apple. I do think it will be either Emery or Ozil. I don't think both will not be here. I do think one of them won't be here at the end of the season. I do think Ozil holds a lot of weight in that dressing room, and regardless of what I feel about both parties, as a manager, if you have a bad egg or someone you don't necessarily see eye to eye with, you've got to move him on. I say this because if he's marginalised also and he's barely played and you're saying more other young players are deserving, why would you name him as one of your 5th captains? Now, again, we know the captain thing is a culture thing. It doesn't mean he's going to ever be captain. But for me, if you're making a man captain, that shows me he holds weight in the dressing room. It doesn't matter if you're Xhaka or Aubameyang or whatever. These lot hold some clout in the dressing room. They're seen as leaders amongst the other men. So man, listen to them. Man, think about what they're saying. And they have the power to influence, good or bad. I'm not saying they're doing that, but they do. So is he making him 5th captain to kind of not keep him on side, but kind of play the game out a bit smart? Clearly, we're looking to move him on. There's a good chance he'll be away in January. So we'll see how that one develops. I do think we could utilise Ozil a bit more, at least until January. But we'll see how this one develops. And the club clearly want to move him on. They've always wanted to move him on. They clearly recognise they made a mistake giving him that deal. But I feel the fact that Emery don't really care for Ozil has made it more of a pressing matter sort of thing. And something has to give, really and truly. He doesn't want him here. And obviously, if the young players are more deserving, they're more deserving. But you've also, on top of that being the truth, I also feel that that's not the truth in that. Again, if he's not applying it in training, I can't comment on that because I'm not seeing it. But in the minutes Ozil's played this season, in 142 minutes, he's looked all right. So I can't judge Ozil based on his lack of work ethic or how he's been at other seasons. I can only judge on what he's contributed now. So if he's done all right now and he's not being involved, for me, that's the kind of force to move because the young players do deserve it, but that's a bit of an insult. Do you see what I'm saying, people? If I tell you that these young players against Manchester United away deserve more to play than a World Cup winner, a captain in the side, that's going to hurt you. Whether that's to spark a reaction is cool. I think there's no right parties. I think you've got the club, the club. They see someone who's 30. They probably want to move him on because he's not playing. I don't feel Emery feels him convincingly and will do everything he can not to play him. And I don't feel Ozil buys into Emery's tactics. And I feel Ozil's probably potentially waiting for Emery to get clipped and see what happens. Ozil's been linked with Barca, been linked with Turkey, going to Fenerbahce, been linked with moves to America. At 30 years of age, it's something for him to consider. I know he's Turkish descent. He's got a Turkish wife. They're both somewhat celebs, respectively, in their careers. Moving to Turkey, the Fenerbahce fans would love him. And at this point in his season, the chance to play for the country of his heritage, for a big club, it could be something too big to turn down, and it might be something he should consider. For me personally, I would like to see Ozil played a bit more, at least until January, because I don't think it's a case of Ozil coming in and we're immediately going to create, but there's a lack of creativity in the side. So I would like to see the creative players play a bit more, and I would like to see an emphasis on just provoking goal-scoring situations, because Guendouzi he's creative, but he's not the most creative, but he's definitely got a bit more to show in that regard. I think Torreira the same. I think Xhaka's an enigma, but Xhaka even, I think we can do a bit more defensively for sure, but also offensively. I would like to see an end to this Ozil Emery crap, because I just want to focus on the season, and it doesn't look like it's going away, people. So clearly there's a lack of effort. Maybe there's a lack of not buying into his tactics, and I think it's a dodgy one, because if you remember last season, when Ozil wasn't involved, if you remember correctly, apparently there was discontent with the team. So he's got to hold some sort of clout in the dressing room. But to do you a lot of justice, people, I've actually got the article of the first forum held between these lot. And what I like about Raul and Vinay is that, from what I've heard, nobody's answering questions half-heartedly. Neither man is rushing off. And this is what I like, man, the open dialogue. Of course, the club are never going to be able to tell us everything right or wrongly that's going. But us Arsenal fans, for a while, we never got it kind of fed into the frustration, because we're not being told anything. We're not seeing any direction. And it doesn't even matter if you support Arsenal or anyone. You want to hear these sort of things or see stuff. So, for as much as I think Vinay and Raul Sanya have done a great work and Josh in backing the chat, in following through the transfer market, in bringing these backroom changes, what I like on top of all of that is the dialogue with fans. They're not over-promising and under-delivering. They're just telling us honesty, and that's what many fans want. What more can you say if they're telling you the truth, people? Or at least what they can tell us. Let me quickly browse it and see if I can find anything else. We spoke about safe standing, which would probably reduce Arsenal's thingy. This will reduce Arsenal's, basically, if we get safe standing, it might reduce our capacity, people. And he's also gone on to, Raul explained the approach behind the summer transfer window and stated that everyone at the club was confident our squad is stronger than last season. With our key ambition this season to qualify for the UEFA Champions League, he pointed out that while acknowledging the need to improve performances in certain moments, we have only lost one game so far this season, which is true, and we've played 3 of the top 6. So regardless of my opinion on the macro and the micro in them games, we've only lost once for as many criticisms. And to go to United away, Anfield away, and Spurs at home, it could have been gloomier. We should have probably beat United. We should have probably performed better, and they'll feel the same way. Liverpool, I'm sure nobody expected us to get something away with. And Spurs, we could have won, but at the end of the day, that was a decent performance from me. So, it's true. It's only October, but it's true. He's also mentioned that the returns of Lacazette, Holding, Hector Bellerin and Kieran Tierney all returning to full fitness should obviously reinforce our side. And he's spoken about the importance of developing strong youth players and bringing them from the academy. On the topic of Lacazette, apparently Lacazette is targeting returning to first team action Sheffield United away, which is going to be a big game. How many times have we won at Bramall Lane? They're unbeaten away from home. They're strong at home. You look at how they played Chelsea away and drew that. They're very good and rigid and brave. How they play at home. They made Liverpool work for them points in their 1-0 win. They're going to be a tough side to play. Their only issue is they can't really score goals. You all know about the Steel City passion and Bramall Lane. On a Monday, it's going to be cold and that. It comes down to who wants it more. And we're going to need Lacazette for that in some capacity. I don't feel there's anything more to add, people. They've also said they're going to try and improve the club's ticket exchange, which for a world-class organisation like Arsenal, I can't lie, the ticket the whole process of how we buy tickets is very outdated, people. And I mean, it's very, very, very outdated. I still don't know how I even, as a Red member, purchase away tickets, people. I have to go through different means to get them sort of things there, people. So yeah, man. I don't think there's anything else to add. Yeah, there's nothing more to really add, people. Really, it's a slow news day, really. So I'm not going to keep you lot any longer. Let's just see, quickly breeze through. Oh, random note on Aubameyang. Aubameyang is the 5th Arsenal player to have won more Premier League Player of the Month awards. After Dennis Bergkamp, he won 4. Thierry Henry with the same number of 4. Van Persie got 3. And a certain Cesc Fabregas got 2. So he's doing what he can to be held in high acclaim and whatnot. And finally, Dennis Bergkamp has said, there are so many clubs who have improved so quickly to a high level, where Arsenal may be improved, but not to that level. It's hard, it's difficult, and it hurts sometimes. You feel sometimes that Arsenal should do better, but I'm still hoping. It's different to what I was used to with English players, and a few foreign. Now it's moved the other way. Sometimes it's good, but a lot of the times you don't really feel that it's Arsenal as we know it. You know, with the passion and a few players that make the difference, which is true, man. He's hurting like us, people. Obviously, I do think we kind of improved quickly on a quicker standard and more significantly, or have more of a playing style, or more. One thing I would say with Emery, and we've had injuries in defence and whatnot, and these players are still making mistakes. But our lack of defensive improvement consistently at this moment in time, for me, drops on him, because that should be your mandate since you arrived at this club. I know we didn't have good enough defenders. We've brought in Luiz, but I don't see a thing where there's a structure right now with our back 5, including Leno, to immediately assume, on top of just base away from the fact that these are better players, to assume if Holding slots into the 11. No disrespect to Socrates and Luiz, because they've been alright. But if Holding slots into the 11, if Tierney comes back, if Bellerin comes back, obviously there's stronger options. But I don't see a system to say these men come back in, we're gonna defend better. I don't think as white and black as that. And at best, what I'm hoping now is that when all of these men are back, I hope that we're training so that the back 5 are looking a bit more shrewd and shored up together. Because they're gonna, our back 5, it should be Holding and Luiz. Socrates has been alright, but Holding, Luiz, Bellerin, Tierney and Leno. With the exception of Luiz, that is going to be our core defence for the next few years. So we need to get them on point. Obviously, with having them, I need our midfield to protect us better. Not just the defensive mid, the whole structure of the team, how we defend from the front, people. And I haven't seen enough progress in that regards, people, with Emery. And that's actually, for as much as I like Emery at this club, that's the one criticism I have with him. It's just, we haven't improved defensively to the level where we should have. I mean, Burnley can hold a better backline than us, regardless of who is in Burnley's defence. That's not me trying to disrespect us. That's just me clearly looking at they do defensive training, defending outnumbered, defending 2 banks of 4. There's an emphasis on that. Now we can flip down his head and say we can score more goals than Burnley, which of course is true. But do you get it, people? We really need to learn how to defend. If we can defend properly, we let less shots at our goal, an issue which is happening at our club and whatnot. At the end of the day, we're 3rd right now. We've got Sheffield United next. It's only October, but we've done alright. It's not been terrible. It's not been amazing. There's still something to work with, but there's still some concerns. But who knows, man? We'll have to see what happens. On that note, though, Deluded, I'm out. DG, I'm gone, boy. People, DG, thank you for watching and rocking as usual. Comment, subscribe, and do the rest. I'm out, though. Bang.